Okay. Cool. So welcome everyone. Today I am joined by Meera. She is an Ishaya Monk. I've met her, I don't know, over lockdown, or I think it was in the last 2 or 3 years we met. She has written a couple of books. Unfortunately, I've not read them yet. One is released and one is in the final stages of editing. So looking forward to both of those. She's here today to talk to us about suffering and how we can, a few tips, I think, on how we can kind of cease our own suffering from whether it be physical pain or emotional. I think we're going to touch on as well. So I think that's right. But I'll let you explain and do your thing. If we have any questions, I will write some stuff down and ask them. So Sarah, if you've got anything live, put it in the chat box. If it's not covered, we'll talk about it at the end. And if it is covered, then it's covered. Brilliant. Cool. So Meera, please take over and do your thing.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a joy to be here, actually. It's a passion of mine to talk about pain, and my first book that I have that's already out there is called Peace or Pain. And the reason I called it that, and the whole point of the book, was rather than seeing pain as something that you have to cure or get rid of, there's a choice in any given moment. And a lot of what we call pain is actually suffering. It's a reaction, it's a secondary experience. So our resistance to the physical sensation in the body then creates a story around the experience, and that story governs how we experience the physical sensation. You know, whatever is going on in our mind is basically little instructions to the body. So it increases the friction and pressure in the body for a start, but it also dictates, it's like the filters of the mind. Every thought that we hold on to in the unconscious mind has an impact on the experience we have. So it's like we have a virtual reality headset on, if you like, and then what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're hearing, what we're experiencing is all governed by what is going on in the unconscious mind. And so a lot of what's changed in my experience is making what is unconscious conscious. And I've got a little diagram that illustrates this. And that's an iceberg. You'll see that we've got the water line there. And above the waterline is what is conscious, what we're consciously aware of. And what's below the waterline is what we're not aware of. And an awful lot, when we're in any experience of pain, whether that is physical, often we look at pain as being something that we physically experience, but actually a lot of people are in high state of anxiety or depression, or they have a lot of anger or any emotional aspect. You know, that's where the pain, what we call as pain, is suffering. You know, it's a reaction. Again, emotion is a physical feeling that has a story wrapped around it. So an emotion is a distorted experience of a physical sensation, and it's often something that we haven't processed. You know, we've been trained to push down, and that's why we have this mass in the unconscious mind. And you can see it's made up of, you know, the thoughts. It's every thought that we identify with and believe is true gets downloaded into our unconscious mind. Any of the emotions, the feelings that we haven't processed get lodged within us, and that expresses as tension in the body. You know, everything that we're not allowing, essentially. And we're so well trained at this, you know, from a very young child. I know in my own experience, things like, you know, just being told not to cry, and from a place of love. You know, it's okay, don't cry. And actually it's stopping us from naturally expressing what wants to arise in our awareness and then letting it go. You know, it's a very natural mechanism that happens, that a feeling comes up and we let it go. But typically we don't, we push it down, you know, and things like anger as well. You know, tantruming child, it's just like anything you can do. Peter will know what I mean.
Yes.
Everything you can do to stop them having a tantrum, to make their behavior fit in with what's going on, and trying to do that unwittingly, we train our children to repress a part of themselves, to almost make that natural expression of emotion wrong. You know, the feeling is wrong, so it becomes repressed. And you know, everything that we repress, it's there, it's within us. It's never, it might be out of mind, it might be that we aren't consciously aware of it, but it's still there and it's having the impact. And particularly if you're in any physical pain, or you have a strong emotional state of anxiety, or you get easily triggered with anger, and anger has a lot of companions like irritation, annoyance, boredom,
Frustration.
Frustration, all signs of anger, you know. And anger is, again, it's a story we tell ourselves. It's repressing something, brings us away from our natural tendencies and brings us into a very forced, pressure-filled environment. And so what we're wanting to do, see my lights reflecting on that, is start to bring everything that's in the unconscious mind, because it's stuck, it's static, it's frozen. As long as it is in the unconscious mind, we can't access it. So what we're wanting to do is start to raise our level of conscious awareness, so we start to recognize everything that's going on in the unconscious mind. And only when we do that do we start to gain awareness and clarity and start to have a different experience. The pressure is immediately released just in recognition, and it's like turning on the light, you know, turning on the warmth. Light is warmth as well, isn't it? So we've got the, you know, the sun shining here, and the little infinity symbol in the sun represents our natural state of being. You know, when we're fully aware of who we are, the pure consciousness that is looking out through our eyes right now, that's who we are. We're not the thoughts, we're not the emotions, we're not even the body sensations. We are that which is aware of all of these things. And when we start to become more aware that we are aware, when we become more consciously aware of that still silent part of ourselves, just the pure awareness, then it effectively melts this, everything that's in the unconscious mind, you know, and it melts basically what we're consciously aware of. But obviously, as you melt any part of that, it reduces the size of this.
The bottom bit, decreases as well. Yeah.
So then you start to make it less. You basically, as well, you know, it's like you're not getting rid of anything. As you can see, the reason I use an iceberg as an example here is, you know, it's something that we freeze in our unconscious mind. It's held static, you know, we hold on to it, and that requires a huge amount of effort and energy. You know, that's why often we get tired, because every part of this is not natural. So we're actually maintaining it unconsciously, but we are maintaining it in place.
And as it's like we're making ourselves worse by holding on to it.
Yeah. And often we do so because of fear of judgment, fear of harm. You know, we want to be loved and liked and accepted. So we kind of change ourselves to try and fit in. And all of this creates, you know, a false self that we call the ego. And that false self governs everything that we experience. But we're really just dissolving. We're dissolving that held in, and we're freeing it so it can freely flow. You know, health is movement. It's free flowing. And so the ice becomes the water. It doesn't go anywhere. It just changes form. You know, within conscious awareness, everything exists. So everything is within us always. But it's our experience of what is within us. When we are resisting, rejecting, holding on to a false belief, then it freezes it into ice.
Yeah. So it's becoming you want to become a true version of yourself by letting go of these thoughts and becoming aware of these thoughts and emotions that are frozen, trapped within us.
Yeah, and once we free them, they tend to go on their merry way. you know, and then only what is useful to us, what is necessary, stays with us, you know. And this has a knock-on effect on our state, our emotional state, and our physical state in our body. And it's really important to to know this and to work with this, as well as, you know, what you guys listen to from Peter week in, week out. Peter is incredibly well versed and an incredible healer. I know, I've experienced it directly, and the impact on my body was immense. But what I noticed is it didn't stick. It didn't stay. It stayed for a while, and then the programming, everything that was frozen in my unconscious mind, then started to sneak back in again. You know, the body then got tense again, and the posture got deviated into its well-versed, distorted state. But it was fascinating that, you know, the day I had the treatment with Peter, it's like my spine was completely straightened. And so when I meditated, I had a really clear experience, because when you clear your body, your mind is clear. The mind body is one thing, really, but when we have any tension in the body, it creates thinking in the mind. Any thoughts that we hold in the mind creates tension in the body. You can't separate the two. It's one mechanism. And then we experience that where mind and body meet. We experience that as an emotional state of being, which has a massive impact on us, you know, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's quite difficult to separate any of those aspects of us, because we are the fullness, the wholeness of all of that, really. And it's the resistance to what is that keeps the iceberg in place, keeps everything that's in the unconscious mind. When we can learn to allow, to accept, and the first step I always suggest is acknowledgement. So that would be the first tip for today, is to just simply acknowledge what is the state of your body, what is the state of your life, the people in it, any situations that arise, the thoughts that are flowing through your mind. Accept them, acknowledge them, and accept them. If you can't accept them, then just acknowledge that they're there, and recognize that they're there for a moment, and stop fighting.
So from my perspective, I would say try and remain factual about it rather than emotional about it. It's like, you can get stressed out and angry or scared about the level of your bank account and go, oh, I've not got enough money, and go into a bit of a panic. But you can just go, okay, this is the amount of money that's in my bank account. And is that right, Meera? That's how I would see it. Is that your perspective too, or is it something different?
Yeah, no, definitely. You want to come back to what is. However, a side note to that is what you see might be governed by your belief system. So the state of your bank account is a very clear thing that you can see. But when it comes to the mind and the mind is very, very set in stone. And so what we believe to be true is what we experience to be true. However, it might not be the fullest picture. It might be just a fragment of the puzzle.
It's that.
It's as long as you're thinking you're experiencing a contracted view of the world, you are not experiencing the fullness of everything. You are only experiencing what your mind is saying is true. So in order to gain a more expanded view of what is actually happening, the fuller experience, we first need to acknowledge it. What are we aware of? Because then the gaps get filled in. The puzzle gets completed as you pay attention. So we're exploring through experience rather than through what the mind is telling us. We are so used to exploring everything through the mind. The mind tells us, and often it's not exploration, it's just right. The mind says, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. Exploration through experience enables us to actually see what is really true, what is really happening. And often actually in that recognition, a self-writing mechanism happens. We don't actually often even need to do anything other than be aware and remain attentive to what we are aware of. And then our awareness expands, and then everything that we're holding on to naturally rises up in our awareness. We might get caught in it and go off into thinking. Very, very common. But the more you practice a meditation practice, the more able you get to have that come up, and you stay focused on the stillness and silence, the backdrop, the context, to the content of thought and emotion and body sensations.
Super. Yeah, I like the exploring. So again, I've written down be curious. Right? But it's also being curious without judging yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think curiosity does that, actually. You know, for us, the Ishayas, we often talk about innocence. You know, drop all expectations, drop all opinion, even drop everything you think you know about the situation, and get curious. Get really curious. What is actually happening? You know, what are you aware of? What else might you become aware of? What else? And in that exploration, what you need to know becomes revealed, whether that's something you need to do to look after the state of your body. It might be a treatment that might be useful, or a cream that you put on, or something. As you become consciously aware, it becomes apparent what you need to do. But also it becomes apparent that all that is doing is treating the symptoms. It's not looking at the root cause. And until the root cause of all those beliefs that we're holding in the unconscious mind, until that root cause is changed, is brought from the unconscious into the conscious, so we now have a choice. Can't choose when it's unconscious. Once you bring it into the conscious, you're consciously aware of it, then it allows choice. And often it heals by itself. That's what I'm often blown away by again and again. I know this. And again, this is like, often we know this theoretically. We know a lot of stuff theoretically, but that doesn't really mean anything unless we can actually put it into practice, action, what we know, and continue to do that in our everyday life, you know, because we're going to flip back into our original, you know, well, it's not our original, actually, it's our learned programming.
Yeah. So original programming is a blank slate, right?
Well, our original blueprint, if you like, is very natural, where we don't hold on to anything. We're wide open, innocent, and allowing. But we've learned to contract down, to be controlling, to resist and reject life, which just simply increases pressure on every experience that we have, including the state of our body and our emotional state.
Yeah, cool. I was just wondering, on your diagram with the iceberg there, I don't know if this was accidental or on purpose, but I noticed there was a gap between E and motion. Now that's something I've seen before. Would you like to explain? And let's see if it's the same as what my explanation would be.
Yeah, there's a little hyphen in there, actually. And it was absolutely deliberate, well spotted. Yeah, because it's energy in motion, emotion. And energy in motion, if we allow it to stay free flowing, and we don't try and change it, it will leave. It will raise up through our conscious awareness and leave. We'll feel an experience in our body. It might be painful, uncomfortable for a while, but if we could just watch it and allow it to be exactly as it is, it will leave. The tension leaves in the state of the body. And with emotion, it's the energy that leaves, the pent-up emotion, the pent-up energy, you know. So it becomes a free-flowing stream, as opposed to, you know, a dam where you know, if you block a hose pipe, you then get the fierce pressure coming from it. You know, you cover the end of a hose pipe, it's fierce. So take your finger away, even if there's a lot of water, it's free flowing. There's a smoothness, a gentleness, and there's no suffering. Resistance, and it can be powerful too, right? Resistance causes the suffering, not the thing you're resisting. Sorry, Peter, what did you say?
I was going to say it can just be powerful too. I was just imagining, you know, you can have like a mountain stream, which is like just a little babbling brook really, and it's just flowing freely, but there's hardly any water going through there. But it could also be like the Nile or the Amazon. It's still serene, but incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and that's actually the difference between power and force.
Mm.
You know, power is natural, it's gentle actually.
Mm.
And we want that, you know, if we've got something that we're needing to do in our daily life, we want a lot of energy, don't we? We want that huge amount of power to fuel us. But what we often try and do is we have expectations and we have desires and we want to try and fulfill them in the way the mind thinks they should be fulfilled. And so that becomes forceful. It's like driving a car with the handbrake partially on.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a friction within that.
Yeah.
You're hindering the power actually, and it becomes more forceful. Everything becomes more forceful and requires more energy. Requires more energy to try and do something when you've got the handbrake on, you know.
Yeah.
You're hindering the flow.
Yeah, I can think of a few examples in my business life, and probably at home as well, but business sprung to mind, where I've bought a program and been told to do it this way, and I panicked. I was full of fear. I was like 12 hours a day, stressed out, and eventually, after about 4 or 5 weeks, I had to give up because I was like in pure panic mode, because I couldn't do it that way anymore. I mean, I was open to change. I was open to trying it, but clearly that wasn't the right way for me. It worked for a lot of other people. A lot of people made millions doing it that exact way, but for me, it was like less than zero. It was a big financial drain a couple of years ago. It felt very forced, and I didn't like it, and my body showed me.
Yeah, and that's a good point actually, Peter, because your body always should, you know, if something isn't right for you, then our body will show us, or our mind will show. Like if you are overthinking, if you're thinking about something again and again and again and again, there's something in that, you know, that flags that maybe what you're doing, you need to widen your avenues of exploration rather than keep doing the same thing over and over again. You'll get the same results. And what's right for one person isn't right for another. You know, I think life is always nudging us towards what is right for us to fulfill our desires. But I think when we have a very strong idea of how our desires should be fulfilled, it's a very limited view of the world. You know, it's like the world, the universe, you know, the fundamental force for good is always trying to work in our favor. But we don't let it because we think we know better. So we don't then have access to, again, the fullness of opportunities then when, you know, we're activating the mind, and we can only then see what matches with what our mind believes is the case. You know?
Yes, our mind then doesn't go searching for different opportunities. So it's like, let's say someone wants to say, I want to be a millionaire, I want to win the lottery. And if they say, I want to win the lottery, that almost limits them to only being able to win the lottery. And the universe, you know, kind of manifesting these kinds of terms, you won't see the opportunity that might be staring you in the face that will help you to make it. It might involve hard work. It might involve, you know, doing things you're fearful of or afraid of doing, or are challenging and hard. But if you only set your mind on, I'm going to be a millionaire by winning the lottery, you won't even explore that opportunity. Okay, or the hundreds of other opportunities that are there. Yeah.
And if you're in pain, you are very good at working hard.
Yes.
You know, because I used to think I was lazy at one point because I was in so much pain and my body was so incapacitated, I couldn't do much with my life, so I felt really worthless. And it's just like, I'm not doing anything. And yet actually now I recognize I was doing a huge amount. It's just what I was doing was sabotaging myself. I was fighting with myself. That's the doing I was doing, and I didn't even know it. Again, that's why it's all about becoming more consciously aware, because you can't change it until you do. And you know, the definition of stress by Eckhart Tolle is, you know, it's being here and wanting to be there. We always want something different, and that works with the, you know, if you've got physical pain or emotional pain or mental, you know, trauma. If we want anything to be different than how it is right now, we're here and wanting to be there. But actually, change and choice happens from being here so fully your awareness is wide open, and your body is fully relaxed and rested, you know, like the highest state of being that we often call enlightenment, or being present, or living in the now, is being fully alert, the highest level of alertness teamed up with the deepest level of rest in the body. And what I recognized is there was no rest in my body. And resting doesn't mean sitting on a sofa or lying on a bed doing nothing. It means a relaxed state of the body. You know, our muscles can be engaged with the tension that we're holding on. There's effort, there's doing in there. There's not relaxation.
Cool. This is powerful stuff. It's stuff. I think it's stuff I often cover, but maybe not as succinctly in this message. So it's great to hear it from another source as well. So this is fantastic stuff. What was it you mentioned? So I can't remember exactly what it was you mentioned, but for me, I wrote down anxiety and imagination. You'll probably remember what you said when I say this. So people often tell me is like, I don't have a very good imagination, so they can't do visualizations. But they also tell me they have anxiety. Anxiety is about imagining a future which hasn't happened yet. So by being anxious, you definitely have a good imagination, because you're imagining things that haven't happened yet, and you're possibly even imagining it in 100 different ways. So like the same thing going wrong over and over and over again in all sorts of different ways. So it's like, you've got a fantastic imagination. Let's use it as a useful tool rather than a destructive tool.
Pick a different point of focus.
Focus on it going well, you know.
And it's easier to move towards something than it is to move away from something. You know, if you're trying to ignore something or deny something or push it out of your experience, you're anchored to it. You know, and it's hard to try and move away from something, because you are anchored to it. It's like you're dragging it like a ball and chain, you're dragging it along with you. Whereas if you turn your focus onto what you want more of, what do you want, and then you'll move more quickly and readily and easily towards it, keeping that focus on what you want. And notice every time you go to what you don't want, you just pick the ball and chain back up again. It's just all right.
And the other thing to maybe add into that is something I only really heard about in kind of towards the end of last year, is being totally okay with how everything is now anyway. So you need that point of focus to move towards, but also being, I'm absolutely fine with all the shit that's going on right now as well.
Absolutely. And that's actually a really important point, that you are okay. Again, that's coming back to my first tip, which is acknowledgement. Let go of the fight for a moment, so you can acknowledge how it is right now, which will naturally lead you into an acceptance. And when you accept, then your perception of reality will change just by that, and you'll lead into what the second tip is, which is just to raise your awareness. Whatever you can do to raise your level of awareness, to explore through experience. Let go of everything you think that's true. For a moment, it might be true even, but let go of the fact that you think it's true, so you can explore in the experience to see, you know, if there's any part of the picture that you're missing. You know, always assume that what you know is incomplete, because that will always leave an opening, you know, for more information, for the experience to soften and expand for you. You know, it's always trying to happen. Everything in the unconscious mind is always actually trying to get up. That's why we're pushing it down. We're keeping it in place. You know, it's not locked there through no mechanism. There is a mechanism that's holding it in place, and it's simply by becoming aware of that you go, oh, you know, letting go isn't something you do. It's something that happens when you recognize you're holding on. Like, you know, if you're holding a hot coal and it's burning you, you'll go, the minute you recognize, you'll let go. So letting go is something that just happens. It's not something you have to try and do.
Fantastic. So we've got acknowledge, number one. I've written down accept, okay, because acknowledge leads to acceptance.
Acknowledge leads to acceptance,
and then a kind of raising awareness of, what do you mean, like bodily, feelings, tension, etc.? Do you mean emotions as well, or all of those things, the thoughts?
All three, yeah.
Yeah.
Just notice the thoughts that are in your mind, particularly the repetitive ones, because they are the ones that are governing your experience the most. So if there's something that you are thinking about over and over again, simply just notice it, because the more you notice something, if it's not serving, you tend to stop doing it just by noticing it, just by recognizing it. So often what we try and do is we miss that step out, and we try to, contrive to be different. Like one of the things I recognized was I said sorry a lot. And really the way I stopped saying sorry wasn't by trying to not say sorry, like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying sorry. It just almost led to me saying sorry more. But it was just recognizing that I said sorry. That actually just recognizing I said sorry. And then I started to see that I wasn't just apologizing for what I'd said or what I'd done. I was apologizing for myself, almost like there was something wrong with me. And so in all of that recognition, in the exploration, saying I'm sorry just fell away. And the recognition that not even that I'm worth something, it's like the worthless feeling falls away, and then you just are. Because even to feel like you're worthwhile, there's still dialogue in there, But when you are just being, there's no dialogue to say good or bad, right or wrong. There's just beingness, if you like, just presence.
Super. Is there anything else for us? I just want to is that what you planned for? Well,
there was one more tip, and that's just to implement a desire to or an intent to relax as you move. Because we're in a tense state. Yeah. When you move, when we're doing, we tend to activate our postural deviations more, like our habits become more, because we're focused on what we're doing. So if you have that intention of relaxing while you move, loosening up, letting everything become more gentle, just noticing how you move as well, I used to walk really forcefully from one room to the other, and it's almost like my focus of attention was kind of up here, so it's almost like I was leading by my mind was leading me. And I'm like, how do you walk? You walk with your legs. So it was just becoming more aware of my legs as I was walking, just watch it. And then my gait became more relaxed and smooth and gentle and easy. And then intending to relax as you move kind of takes it that one step further, and it leads to strengthening. Yeah.
I mean, I'll see it in the gym all the time, people just overthinking stuff. It's like, just lift the damn thing up.
And focus on the sensation of the lifting.
Yeah.
Then you're out of your head and into your body.
Certain exercises you get quite technical about it, like deadlifts and all this kind of stuff, and you see them there. It's like, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. They're thinking about protecting their back, and the people who think about protecting their back are often the ones that do the back damage, because they're so tense, and they're not moving fluidly, like we're supposed to move.
And how we can very quickly move into as well, like even if you have a lot of tension locked into your body, just by playing with this, very quickly you can loosen it. Like everything wants to loosen up. We're not designed to hold on to anything in our mind, in our emotional state, or our bodies. So very quickly, when you start playing with this stuff, you start bringing more movement. Movement is health.
Absolutely.
With money as well as you.
Money's got
as well as with your physical state.
Like a river, you've got to create a space for it, for more to come in. I get these concepts.
It's harnessing the flow of the river. The river is taking you somewhere. Harness the flow of it, rather than trying to go upstream.
There was something else there. Oh, I've got a tip. I don't know if you know this one, and what you talking about it kind of brought it to mind for me. Is to literally try and tense up every muscle in your body all at once. You've got to be careful if you've got high blood pressure on this one, but you tense up every muscle in your body at once. So it's best on lying down, and you hold for about 3 seconds, and then you relax, because muscles, when they tense up, they've got then a good habit of relaxing straight after. So if you've got muscle tension in your neck, you lift them right the way up as hard as you can, and then so yeah, I don't know if I've told these guys this either. So it's just a handy little tip to kind of get the muscles of the body to just switch off a little bit. And it takes 5 seconds. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Meera. I'll share this with everyone in the group, and I really hope they watch and enjoy it. And I also hope that some of them may find you either on Facebook or via your books. You've also got so this is not just you, but there's this website called Meditation Changes Lives. Meera does a live session on Thursdays at 1 till 1:20. Other Ishaya, is they're all Ishaya monks? Yeah, okay. Other Ishaya monks do the other days, but Meera herself does the Thursday session at 1 until 1:20 if you want a little kind of lunchtime semi-guided meditation available in your day. And yes, she's got books, and she also teaches Ascension Meditation courses at her home in Rickmansworth. Is that still true? Yeah. Cool.
I regularly do that.
every 2 or 3 months.
On Facebook, I actually have a group, so if anybody wants to join that, it's just called Peaceful Pain. So you can either search for it and just apply to connect. And I've got I post weekly one of the cards that I've created, a 64 set card deck, and so I post one of my cards each week, and then I talk a little bit about it. So it kind of gives you either a focus, a topic to focus on, or a little exercise to explore and play with to help change your relationship with pain. And this isn't just for physical pain, this is for mental and mental torment and emotional overwhelm as well. You know, if we're locked into an anxious state all the time, it's just as applicable for that as well. So that might be something that people want to join in with.
Super.
Yeah, just to have that ongoing, you know, because again, it's keeping that exploration going. That's my invitation to you today, is it's not just you do one thing and then it's done. You know, life is a journey, and it's about enjoying the journey and keeping that journey as an open, curious exploration, so that we don't go back into the mind, lock down, and then have our experience based on the past, because that's all the mind is, in a way. It's past conclusions and belief that dictate our moment right now, you know. And it's the same with emotion. It's you know, a record of the past, a past feeling that never got fully processed. So we need to keep exploring in any way, shape or form,
because new stuff will always come up, and stuff you didn't even remember will suddenly surface because you've cleared away some of the other stuff, like peeling back layers of an onion.
You become more aware, basically, more consciously alert and attentive to what is, so you see everything much more clearly then. You know, so
right. Fantastic, Meera. I know you've got to get away in a short while, so we'll end it there. Thank you so much for coming today and talking and giving your knowledge and experience. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. I just hit stop here.